When I wrote the first check to Sachin and Binny, we said we'll be happy with a 200 million outcome. I'm sure Elon Musk is doing that all day long, but there are probably not that many Elon Musks around the world. But you get to do what you do best, and somebody else gets to do what is best for them. If you really make good friends who not only are great believers in you, but have complementarity of skills with you, you can actually go a long, long way with them. When you get the right ball, you have to also hit the 6 or the 4 because the scoreboard also counts. I keep saying that in the early stage companies, it's about 9 months in that I know it's like, whether you have delivered the baby or not. You get a good sense of whether this founding team has everything that is needed. My current partner, Abhinav, he talks about, Abhinav was part of the team at Amazon. So obviously Mukri was his boss, super boss. So he says Mukri and I, we walked into a bank one time and the guy wouldn't let him in until they figured out how much money he had in his current account. Today he has 40 customers with at least $1 million ARR and some of them paying him like 20-30 million each. So it's just talks about the way that he could take a consumer business in India to a B2B business global is absolutely unthinkable.
There's one quote from this from the book, right? It says, if money, society and expectations are kept aside,
out,
right?
What would you be doing?
What would you be doing?
Yeah.
So do you see that level of crazy missionary zeal?
PPM is like a beast. It's like hundreds of pages. And after like 20 pages, I was done. What the hell am I doing? Our schools today don't really know how to nurture students on all different angles. But when you are an entrepreneur, you never say no as an answer. Right? If there is, that's how I used to behave when I was an entrepreneur. So I think each person has their own compass, right? And either we have to align with them or they have to align with us. But once that happens, now I think it sort of starts creating that magic. So that I don't know if it is nature or nurture. It's probably somewhere in between.
So today, if you were to meet a 26-year-old founder, to say, is this going to be the next Gaurav Singh Kushwaha? I mean, they're going to be their own person, right? That's not the question.
Yeah.
But there are certain traits that say that, if people have this, this and this, they're more likely to be resilient or successful or adapt or evolve, because all of them have evolved. Welcome to the Prime Venture Partners podcast. I am delighted to have with me Subrata Mitra, the co-founder of Accel India, formerly called Erasmic when they started. Very, very excited to have him because he's seen the entrepreneurship journey both as an entrepreneur himself earlier and then him founding Erasmic and then Accel India. Welcome to the show, Subrata.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. We have known each other for a really long time, and first time on your show here, but better late than never.
Absolutely. And while we wanted to have Subrata on the show many a time, I think this book that he has recently co-authored called Down But Not Out, along with Pankaj Mishra and many other collaborators, is the reason we wanted to invite him, and he was gracious enough to accept the invitation. So Subrata, I know you've been on the ringside of many companies, successful, unsuccessful, super successful. Why this book and kind of why now?
I think you probably know Avinash Raghav, the guy.
I do.
He was part of our marketing and then he went and did SAS Bhumi. When he was part of our marketing, he was always on my case that, you have had this ringside seat for some of these companies and why don't you talk about them? My challenge always was that for a super successful company like a Flipkart or a Myntra, there are parts of the journey which are really exciting, but they're hard to talk about. And especially when they have been acquired by a Walmart. So I was kind of pushing back on him saying that's not the story we want to write. And then more recently with the AI wave, once he was part of SAS Bhumi, he came and told me that there are significant number of almost defunct companies that are making good revenues, but they're not scaling. So what are some of the things that we could do to help them? And one of the things that it got me thinking about was my own journey where almost like the third time successful. So I was trying to pen this down, and instead of just writing my story, I told Avinash that why don't we go find a bunch of other people who has had a similar kind of an up and down kind of a career. So that will be a good medley of things to put together. So that's quickly the sort of the backdrop here.
No, very, very interesting. In fact, three or four of these founders I know really well, and a couple of them even been on our podcast, right?
Yeah.
So Mukri or Mukesh Singh,
Yeah.
Anish, we've not had on the podcast. Somebody we should probably invite. Raghu, we know very well. In
Yeah.
fact, Taxi for sure is an anti-portfolio for Prime.
Sure.
They were apparently incubated in our office. I wasn't here at the time. So Raghu and Aprame are very well known to us, and we think highly of them. So maybe just a couple of stories that because there are so many interesting stories, including
Yeah.
your own. I've known you for years. I didn't know you were that much into cricket, but maybe just some of the stories that have sort of stuck, out for you across any of these companies as we go through this.
Yeah, see each of them. Let's say you talk about Gaurav Kushwaha. He is this quintessential computer science IIT kind of guy. Very thoughtful, great at problem solving, but probably not so good at building a team and kind of scaling things when he started, right? And then we did Chakpak with him, and I was actually sitting across from the table with him. We kind of realized that he has these key strengths and then some of these other challenges that we need to work on. And then when he did Bluestone, he was going to be one of the two co-founders, but the other co-founder left almost immediately. So everything fell on him. He was supposed to be the tech co-founder. I think the most intriguing part of that story is this day when he has to let go of a bunch of people and how thoughtfully he did it. And he brought each one of them to his room one by one. And the first thing he said is, we are doing this, but it is more our fault than your fault. So that's something that touched me because the culture at Excel. This is something that we want to celebrate. So it became part of one of the stories. Mukri, of course, like you said, he is like this whole Gita and Chandi and whatever. He can recite all of that in one go. But what got me excited about Mukri was he was referenced to me through a bunch of his batchmates at IIT Kanpur, I mean, including Mukesh Bansal and a few other people that I knew. So computer science again, very highly regarded in Amazon, where people like Gaurav went and worked with him. And of course, he walked by my office one day saying, "You've done Flipkart and you've done Myntra, and then Mukesh is this very close friend of mine. Why can't you do a groceries thing?" I was actually very averse to groceries, but he almost convinced me to write the first check to Zapna. And then obviously that company wasn't successful, but then how quickly he managed to turn it around and go from a India-centric company to a global and US-centric company. So today he has 40 customers with at least $1 million ARR, and some of them paying him like 20, 30 million each. So it's just talks about the way that he could take a consumer business in India to a B2B business global is absolutely unthinkable. But I think his story was mostly the funniest part of the story was that he would show up in shorts. It doesn't matter, how important the meeting is. And my current partner Abhinav, he talks about Abhinav was part of the team at Amazon. So obviously Mukri was his boss, super boss. So he says Mukri and I, we walked into a bank one time and the guy wouldn't let him in until they figured out how much money he had in his current account. So these are the quirks about Mukri that sort of got me. And obviously I've worked with him for the longest time. So I don't know if you know, I hired Gaurav as the second engineer at Tavan
Oh, I did not know that.
when he was all of 21 and a half years old. So I was joking with him. I've known him for more than half his life and almost half my life. So these two stories are really, really, great, and I have been sort of associated with it very closely. So I been with, let's say, Raghu of Taxi for Sure, now doing Zolve. In between, he was trying to do something with you guys, so I was part of that journey as well. Great person, and he is also a cricket lover. So his whole analogy about never being the 12th man sort of caught along with me. I think the big fillip was to get Sanjay Nayak. So because when I started in 2005, Silicon Valley Bank, which you know
Of
in city
course.
center, they had just been established in India, and they would throw these parties whenever a large VC firm would get their contingent. So I remember, we were just about starting Erasmic at that time, so I would go attend some of these parties. This gentleman, Carl something or the other, that long European last name, he was like the main guy at that event. So everybody was kind of going around and talking to him. And then he told me, you know why I'm here? I said, why? We just put 15 million check into this company which is doing networking out of Bangalore. Oh, which company is this? And that's how I came to know about Sanjay. And then I kind of dug around and I found a bunch of my contemporaries from IIT Kanpur were actually working with him. So the fact that we could get him on this story actually gave me a lot of motivation, because he's been this quintessential Indian founder who's kind of worked at it for 20 years, literally, to make something successful. So he's seen like the high and that absolute low, 2008 when the meltdown happened, he was in the middle of all that. So these are some of the touch points which got me motivated to write this book. But I think I should give a shout out to Pankaj as well. Factor Daily was something that we have been involved with, and then he did the book with Girish. So it was actually, I invited him to be my co-author, and he's done actually amazing part of the journey. He got this sketch artist involved,
Yeah.
and so we kind of did some iterations on the book itself. So first we wrote our own stories. So 10 stories came out to be 75,000 words, and it was going to be like a encyclopedia, and we said, that's not going to work. Then we went 100%
The other way.
visual, and then the founders said, that doesn't fully explain what we went through. So we took this middle path where we have like a 20-page thing including some artwork. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit about the format of
No,
the
it
book.
does. It does bring it alive, and I've never seen in a kind of a startup book or more of a business sort of a book these illustrations, and they make it very. They invoke a nice ethos, right, in terms of how the journey has sort of
Yeah,
evolved,
yeah,
right? So I'll pick one from quote from the book and a phrase I haven't heard before, right? Saying, look, in a fog you need two things, right? A map and a compass. And I think everybody can connect with what a map is, or for that matter, compass. But your long-term objective function
yeah,
that you always thought about optimizing is long-term greed,
yes.
right? Not the Gordon Gecko greed is good. So talk a little bit about both the fog and the compass and the map, but also this long-term greed.
Yeah, I actually, so this is very interesting, because the long-term greed came from me, and the fog and the compass came
From the
from
founders.
Pankaj.
Oh,
From
from
Pankaj,
Pankaj. Oh, wow.
because he was interviewing these founders, and then he said, this is how we should explain, because this is the theme. So let me talk about the long-term greed
Yeah.
first, because if you look at it, every founder in their companies, and especially so in India, they will go through these ups and downs, right? So, and every stage you are kind of evaluating, is this worth doing it? Now, there are a bunch of people who will probably not do it beyond a certain point, but the guys who truly endure are the guys who realize that we are doing it for something else other than greed. And what is it that we are doing it? And every person has their own, motivation. What I found was I could never sit at home, do something in a sort of an isolation. So I needed an atmosphere where I could bring in new ideas. I could, bounce off and challenge people, and they challenge me back. And what better place to be than in a sort of a venture capital firm? And if you, I'm sure you know this better than I do, that venture capital firms in India, they barely ever return money before year 14, 15, 16, right? Although our capital commitments are for 10, 11.
That's right.
But for a good fund, it gets to year 14, 15, and 16. In fact, our Flipkart fund is still alive. That's a 2008 vintage fund. So
Despite returning gobs of capital.
but there are still
There are
two,
other
three
companies,
companies
yeah.
that are still active and doing well. So that sort of motivated me to coin this phrase of long-term greed. Now, the compass and the map is actually, it's fairly obvious,
Yeah.
right? So as founders, we hardly ever know what's
Out
like
there, what's
fully
going to
out
happen?
in front of us, right? It's like in the fog, you're driving a car. If you go to Delhi, I guess you were in Delhi for a while. The December drive in the evening, you are wiping the
Yeah,
windscreen, but it's still sort of foggy, and but everybody else is going at a certain speed, so you actually have to kind of keep that momentum. So that's sort of and then you come in and put in the compass, which is sort of tells you at this point where is north, right? So at any point of time, your alignment as a startup founder to your goals and motivations and people, that's sort of the compass, right? And even though there is fog, you can probably look at the compass and say, I know that I have to do these three things today. And that's the north pointer that we are looking at. So that's kind of the reason why we chose
absolutely.
that analogy.
So Subrata, since you backed so many companies, right, including, like I said, successful and maybe less successful ones, right? And now you've written this book and you would have done a lot of reflections. Are there any patterns that emerge? So today, if you were to meet a 26-year-old founder
Yeah.
to say, is this going to be the next Gaurav Singh Kushwaha? I mean, they're going to be their own person, right? That's not the question.
Yeah.
But there are certain traits that say that, if people have this, this, and this, they're more likely to be resilient or
Yeah. Yeah.
successful or adapt or evolve, because all of them have evolved.
All of them have evolved. I mean, and even Flipkart and Myntra,
Absolutely.
when I wrote the first check to Sachin and Bini, we said we'll be happy with a 200 million outcome,
Yes.
right? And we went through 200 like that, and nobody even looked back and said, that was our milestone. It wasn't, right? It was just a sort of a marker on the
Right.
road. So I think what I'm looking for really is like two characteristics. One is this, ability to stay long, because most journeys in India will go through their own ups and downs. But together with that, the perception of being able to say that I have now found something, that loose ball is there which needs to be hit for a six. So you can't defend entire 50 overs. So you have to get the shine of the ball, which is your ability to stay long. But when you get the right ball, you have to also hit the six or the four, because the scoreboard also counts. So I try to kind of combine both those things and then do a lot of ref checks and things like that. The fact that Gaurav worked with me so early on in his life was itself a ref check. But for anybody else who was new, like even for Mukri, I went and checked with all his batchmates and the people that he worked with at Amazon and all, and try to validate these two things. Will they stay the course? And then when the right opportunity arises, will they be able to take advantage of it?
Absolutely. And how do you think about, we often have this debate inside of Prime, and I've talked about this with many other investors, this whole nature versus nurture thing, right? Like how, and some of it is not factorable, right? But to say that people will evolve or people will learn. Like you said, Gaurav Singh Kushwaha, uh, perhaps great engineer,
Yeah.
tinkerer, maverick, but whether he learned to build teams and manage teams and let people go off with empathy, right? How do you figure that out? Or is there like something you look for, or it just luck of the draw a
No,
little
no,
bit?
no. It is, some of it is you'll never be able to. So I keep saying that in the early stage companies, it's about 9 months in that I know it's like, whether you have delivered the baby or not. You get a good sense of whether this founding team has everything that is needed. I mean, it might still not work because we may be in a wrong, product cycle or in a wrong market and all of that. But I really can figure out, is this a team that, let's say, if they came back and said, this is not working out, I want to do something else. Is this somebody that I'm going to be a repeat investor with? But it does take, 8 to 9 months to get there. But the checks are still, it's sort of ongoing all the time, right? So, and the good thing about us is we need to get about 20-30% right. Right? So we don't need to get all the assessments correct all the time. And then because we have the liberty of putting a small check up front and then double down with larger checks, I think the risk reward is actually pretty much in our favor. So if you can engage with the right team with the right set of background checks and then keep testing them or keep challenging them for the next 6 to 9 months, and they either are already humming with something that seems very credible, or they will probably pivot around, and yet the team will be good enough that they will get to innings 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier, third time successful, right? So version 3.0.
Yeah.
So talking about nature versus nurture and evolution, right? One story from Anish struck out with me,
Yeah.
which is that, of course, his co-founders left. He had to raise money from his family, his father, father-in-law. But he also had to face reality about himself.
Yes.
And it's very rare, unfortunately, at least that's what we see with the Indian founders,
Yeah.
that he did a 360, he took coaching on the advice of one of the board members and really changed quite dramatically
Yeah.
from what it was, right? So maybe talk a little bit about that story since you're up close and personal. And do you see that trait now becoming more common amongst founders to be more open to evolving and
No. See, I think the big
adapting?
challenge for us is it's a law of small numbers.
Yeah.
So Anish is very unique.
Yes.
And so is a Gaurav. And so I think for Gaurav, it was almost like, getting to the end of the line and Prashant telling him that we are willing to try again. I think that sort of opened his eyes to saying that now I have to take a much broader responsibility. I need to be responsible for every shareholder, and then he was obviously very smart, right? So he went and did the background training and talked to a bunch of people and sort of got to his mojo. Whereas Anish, it almost he had to sit in this quiet little vipassana kind of thing. And that's when it dawned on him that what am I doing, right? So is life all about building the startup, or is there sort of a bigger motivation to calm myself down and take every day as a sort of a new opportunity to do something useful for one and sundry, right? So I think these are every founder will be different. So Mukri, for example, when he got pushed to the brim, there was one instance where we had to buy out his co-founder.
Yes.
And he told me, don't use the company's money. It was my mistake. I came with this co-founder. So I'm going to use my money to buy him out. So I told him, okay, so please do. I mean, it's a big step. It was, I mean, he was not like super rich at that time. I mean, he had some amount of resources. So he actually liquidated some of that resources. So I think each person has their own compass, right? And either we have to align with them or they have to align with us. But once that happens, now I think it sort of starts creating that magic. So that I don't know if it is nature or nurture. It's probably somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But for an investor, if the compasses actually align, I think the journey becomes almost, the fruitfulness of the journey becomes important and not just the outcome of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's between nature and nurture for sure. Because I think that, however, whatever we have seen is that there are folks who have this ability to evolve and have a very high learning quotient.
I
So
think
you have
all
to
of
be
these
very
do.
open-minded about, because you don't know
Yeah.
when you're starting out, right? When you started out Tawant or Erasmic, who knew what
Exactly.
this would be? So if you're not open to input and suggestions and feedback,
Yeah.
could be from peers. There's a couple of stories on mentors and peer-to-peer mentors. You have to be willing to, for all the confidence and
Yeah.
six-hitting ability you have.
No, absolutely.
You
And
also
there'll
have to
be
be open
days
to
when you
input.
won't hit sixes.
Yeah.
You'll only get out, right?
From what you're saying, most of the days you're not going to.
Yeah, you're not
You're going
hitting
to take
sixes.
dot balls and singles.
Yeah. I mean, this is a test match. It's not a T20.
100%.
Right? So that's the difference. But how do you win a test match is very different from how you win a T20.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So switching gears, let's talk a little bit about this topic of mentoring. I forget, it's a couple of many stories. In fact, I found some cross references, right? Like Raghu being a mentor to some other company in this same book, right?
The Taxi for Sure is where Ninja Cart came out of.
Oh, that's right. So maybe
that was a very direct.
That's a direct connection there, right?
I mean, actually, Raghu is part of the board.
Oh, he is? I didn't know that.
Ninja Cart. We made sure that he continues to be part of the board.
Very nice. Very nice. Excellent. So talk a little bit about that role of the support system around you to remain in play and to be there till the end of the test match.
And you'll see a lot of the founders have talked about their families.
Yes.
So I think that is uniquely Indian. At least in the US, I don't hear, I mean, sometimes they will allude to it, but how important a family has been, Anish, like going to his father-in-law
It's crazy.
It's almost crazy, right? Nobody would actually think that the guy even had any logical sense to do that, right? But when you are an entrepreneur, you never say no as an answer, right? If there is, that's how I used to behave when I was an entrepreneur. I used to tell Mahindran that, we are raising this 10 million fund for Erasmic. Till the guy sends me a no, I'm going to assume that I have a chance to make it a yes, right? And I see that in all of these guys. So you never take no for an answer. You continue to iterate. You continue to ask questions, and somewhere that light bulb kind of goes off, right? But going back to this whole mentorship, I think it can come from almost everywhere, right? It could come from, I've talked about this ganna juice example, which is in our IIT days, we would go
Yes.
running, come back, and that would be like this fresh breath of everything. We didn't never bothered about sugar content and that in those days, but you feel like you're ready to go play another round of soccer after that or whatever it is, and that when I look at Indian companies, I see this analogy because it is almost like in one go, nothing happens. You have to come back and do it again, refine it again. And so that was like a mentorship theory that I keep telling a lot of my founders that just because you have either succeeded or failed today doesn't matter. Come back tomorrow, let's take a fresh look and let's just go again, right? Is it worth going again? And that depends on the stamina of the founder most of the times. But if they have the stamina, then we'll say, let's try something else. But going back to mentorship, we have kind of structured it now. Most of our founders, we tell them that, do you want a coach? Right? And the coach could be somebody that they pick or somebody that we pick. And it actually dawned on me because we at Excel have used coaches for ourselves. And then we had this big challenge in Flipkart where we were trying to bring in, people like Kalyan from outside to work with the founders. And there was this, who's doing what, why are they doing this, the usual sort of conflict resolution where we actually got a coach and that was quite useful. So I feel like coaching is very important. Now, whether you go the formal route or the informal route probably depends on the size of the company, sort of who do you have around you who can coach you. Do you align with a certain thought process and what's the best way to coach somebody? So I have seen a lot of different variations of coaching work, but absolutely essential that most founders get some kind of coaching.
Yeah, completely agree with you. We are also big believers in that. And So I want to go back to something you said earlier, both going to the long-term greed, but also some kind of missionary zeal, right? I know much used term, but there's one quote from this from the book, right? It says, I think it's from Kedar at Hyperverge,
Yeah.
right? That if money, society, and expectations are kept
Taken
aside,
out, yeah.
right?
What will you be doing?
What would you be doing?
Yeah.
So, do you see that level of crazy missionary zeal again going back? We're going back and forth, right? Fast forward to when you see the younger companies, and then when you see them 15 years later,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's with Gaurav or Mukri or Kedar or whoever, uh, that something bigger is driving them. It's not just like making money
I
or
think
fame.
everybody matures to that,
Okay.
right? I mean, most successful companies that you look at, if it has taken 10, 12, 15 years to get to that level of maturity, the founders would have matured a lot, right? And there this happens that, who am I and what am I doing here? So everybody has to answer that question at some point, right? Now, for a 26-year-old, is that possible? I actually funded my son's company. He started when he was 25. I see a big difference between him at 25 and now at 29. He's already starting to feel that there is this other thing that we need to do to keep sort of our inner self aligned with what we are trying to do every day at work, right? So I think people see it at different points of time, but if you take a long enough horizon of a journey, it definitely has to happen.
Yeah. Great. So there are these 10 truths that you have cited, right, that endure, and these are probably from the founders
From the
and then these
founders.
journeys,
Yes.
correct? And then there's this beautiful. I'd love to get the speech itself on the what you told a bunch of eighth graders, but let's go through maybe a few examples from each of these, right? So there was one which was around from generalist to specialist that caught my eye, right, from
Yeah.
Sanjay
Yeah.
Nayak. Um, Maybe you want to
And
talk about.
I also believe that a lot, and I'm sure you would have seen it, right? So when we start the company, there are one, two, three founders, right? And we are trying to solve everything. We are doing marketing, we are doing product, we are doing, market research, we are doing whatever it takes to get to the next day. So clearly we are generalists at that point.
Yes.
And the big challenge happens when people stop letting go. Let's say you've gone from that 3 people company to a 100 people company. Now you have a marketing department, and now you have 3 product managers and 2 engineering leaders. Now, if you come and tell them, because you are splitting your time across everything, so if you come and tell them, no, 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 this product needs to be done that way, right? I don't think that would be like the best way to. I mean, I'm sure Elon Musk is doing that all day long, but there are probably not that many Elon Musks around the world.
Law of small numbers.
Law of small numbers. So here, I think the most important thing is, as a founder, to pick your, like, almost like your daily priorities, right? Today I have 8 hours at the office or 12 hours at the office. I know I have to solve some backward looking problem, which is some fire burning somewhere, some team member leaving, or a new guy has to be hired, and all of that. But these are all holes that got created because of backward looking stuff. And then there is the forward looking stuff, which is, I am here, which is at step one of, climbing Mount Everest, and I have to go 30,000 steps more. What is step 10 going to look like? What is step 100 going to look like? Right. So I think as a founder, if we can somehow keep switching that gear, when we are at 1, we start thinking about 10. When we are at 10, we have to think about 100, and then work backwards from there. What do I need to get to 100? I think that's something that we try to tell our founders, as opposed to sort of, continue to get in the grunges of what Python code to write, or, how do you do product management and things like that. And I think at some point people realize, but the sooner you get them exposed to it, I think they start kind of, thinking about it, and that helps.
Yeah, I think there's another example in the book, which is that you have 25,000 things to do, but what are the 2 that you're going to do today?
Every day.
Right?
And Jeff
Every day.
Bezos is the same,
Yeah,
right?
Bezos is absolutely the same thing. He's saying, if I make 3 good decisions a day, I'm golden for eternity.
Exactly.
Long-term greed.
Yeah.
Right? So that's great. Um, there was one interesting thing which was a common to both. Actually, maybe let's finish the 10 kind of list, right? So there were a few other things, right? Like, say, stay stoic, remain not out, and the one that was common to this and the eighth grader speech that you did was make the road joyful.
Yeah.
So smell the roses along the way.
Yeah.
So maybe talk about any of the other 10 that you that in the epilogue, but also about staying stoic, remaining not out, maybe staying joyful.
And one that I love, which I don't know if it is still there, I had told the 8th graders, is, and this was in a school which I had attended. So I was telling them that, remember that you come to school to make friends.
Yes.
You don't come here to study. And all the teachers were looking at me in some, weird ways. But I was already 58 at that point. They were not going to tell me not to say this. So it was actually quite funny that I was telling a class full of students that you come to school to make friends. And I was giving them examples of Ashish Gupta and Dinesh Katiyar, that if you really make good friends who not only are great believers in you, but have complementarity of skills with you, you can actually go a long, long way with them. Right? So that is something that I truly believe, and I try to make it a point to repeat it when I get a chance. That and school is just an example, right? So every walk of life, you're going to meet people who have complementary skills. And can you make use of that in some meaningful way? How do you relate to them and get them to work with you, or you work with them? I think is a great sort of skill to have or learn or make do with. But going back to the other,
Actually, I want to interrupt you because
yeah,
this is catch my eye. Believe it or not,
yeah.
I sent a picture of this to my son this morning while
Oh,
riding
okay,
over
good.
in the car because he's just about to go to college
Sure.
in a few weeks
Yeah,
to the US to study. And we're all talking about AI, and in AI, will it matter if you study finance or economics or whatever, right? Because AI is going to do everything.
yeah,
And it's like, this is an interesting angle, right?
yeah.
Like, go to school to make friends and make relationships. And
How our schools today uh, don't really know how to nurture students on all different angles. They put too much stress on the kid, saying कि ये पढ़ लो वो पढ़ लो, because now तो every 2 months a new version of Claude is coming out, and who knows who's getting out of a job and who's getting into one, right? So this ability to be flexible, be learning, and like I said, in school, just make friends. I don't think anybody is teaching that.
yeah, no, and in fact, another sort of corollary that we often hear is that it's not what you're doing or why
Yeah,
you're even doing it, it's who you're doing it with, because
exactly.
that's the only way you will, get to, the proverbial Ithaca, since the
Yeah,
movie is very popular right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
But your son, please,
Yeah.
if he ever wanted to hear it from me,
Yes,
would be
yes,
happy to.
most certainly. I'll take you up on that. Now we
Yeah,
have it on record as well. So
sure.
I'll send him to you for half an hour.
I mean, that's
For
the only
sure.
thing we can do at this age. Make sure that
Absolutely.
the next generation gets some, ability to kind of make the leap forward, just like we did.
100%, 100%. And no, and you've done so many amazing things for the ecosystem, and I'm really really glad you kind of did the book, because I think it triggers a lot of other
Yes.
thoughts and ideas, right? There was another one which you told the eighth graders, which I think we just talked about, the from the generalist to the specialist, which is that find your own unique skills and double down. And if
Yeah.
I may elaborate it, I would say what you're not good at, let go. Find other people to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's Erasmic, right? I mean, if you look at the combination of Mahindran, Prashant, and me, I think I'm good at a few things and really bad at a lot of other things. Without Mahindran, we would have never gone through. So, in that $10 million fund, we didn't have enough money to get a lawyer.
Mm.
So Mahindran actually went through. We used to have to write that PPM,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
you you know about it.
Yes.
Now being Excel, we don't have to write a PPM anymore. At least that graduation has happened.
I've heard that from all of you.
Okay, but
Shekhar, you,
this
Prashant.
this PPM is like a beast. It's like hundreds of pages. And after like 20 pages, I was done. What the hell am I doing? So he said, okay, you've done enough. You've gone and lined up all the investors. Let me take care of this. So this is the complementarity of skill sets that you need in an initial team, that nothing drops, to the bottom. So otherwise things will kind of blow up later. So you have sort of full coverage between the two or three of you, but you get to do what you do best and somebody else gets to do what is best for them. So I think that is actually very, very critical in our, how you pick your co-founders and things like that.
Absolutely. And like you said, things may change, not necessarily co-founders, but when you go from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100
Yeah,
to
and that's a
1000,
specialization
yeah,
thing
it's a
that you need to.
specialization.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mahindran got legal, and then he was advising them and all of that. But as it became more sophisticated.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about joy and joyfulness and spelling the roses,
Yeah,
both with the founders and what advice you give to
yeah.
younger people.
And again, this is something we don't talk about. We do our Tuesday meetings, right, instead of the Monday meetings,
The
because
partner meeting.
partner meeting, because Dinesh used to be in the US. So just to make sure that he doesn't have to work a Sunday night, we made him work on a Monday night. But I think the thing that was unique to our, and sometimes we do it even in the sort of the broader forum, but when partners are meeting, I make it a point to joke about our mistakes,
Mm.
right? And usually I'll be the first one to go and say, I plunked 20 million into this company. I don't know what I was smoking on that day. I should have done better diligence, but I hope you guys are doing it better than I do, right? And then so that sort of makes the mood so much better in the room, that we actually get a lot more done. And I think the constraints get removed, that we don't need to uh, create an environment that we don't naturally live in, right? So I think that is important. Mr. Pratik, he was a lateral move from another fund. You can ask him his first day at our office. Somebody was grilling me for this company called MoneyView, which is now going IPO.
Yes.
So at that point, MoneyView was going sideways. And the guy grilling me was actually an associate. He was not even part of the full team.
Yeah.
So he had done this full analysis of lending. Nothing can come out of this. Why did you ever invest? And I was trying to explain to him that, I found the founders very good and we were doing something else. We pivoted into this. But even here, I feel like the model that they have, which is largely off book, is actually going to scale very well and things like that. But he was at it saying, no, big mistake kind of thing. And then Pratik obviously was first day, so he didn't say anything. And then when I did my one-on-one with him, he said, this is actually amazing. You never got angry. You were actually entertaining him to ask more questions. And then in the end, I think you put your point across saying, this is the best I could have done given the cards that I was dealt with, right? So I think making a little bit of the environment happy, friendly, etc., actually increases the productivity of the system. And that I've tried to talk about. And I think a lot of the other founders, you look at Mukri, right?
Yeah.
He's never stressed out.
He's crazy.
He's absolutely crazy. And most founders are absolutely crazy, but they're crazy in all kinds of different ways and quirky ways. So he is one of those that he's always happy, doesn't matter what stress is out there, he'll try to calm it down. So I think that's...
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my partner Sanjay says as well that entrepreneurship is, on a yearly basis, 363 or 64 days of grind and 1 or 2 days of joy. So when you get the joy, live it up.
And then I'm saying that, put that 365th joy every day.
Yes.
Maybe that's the only difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. Celebrate the small moments every day. Because there's obviously something good happening.
Something good happening.
Something good happening every day. So Subrata, as we come to a close here, if you were to give advice to two sets of people, one is Subrata of 20 years ago, right? 2005 at the beginning of Erasmus or 2007, whenever the year was, or a founder 20 years ago, right? Either one that you have backed or even otherwise, right? What would you possibly suggest or maybe even do differently, if anything?
So the me, I know, I wouldn't do anything differently.
Okay.
It has actually worked out way better than I ever thought possible, right? So I'm really lucky that, and you probably don't know, I was not going to move to India at all. My wife put the gun on my head and said,
I saw the story of your marriage prenup condition. We have to move back to India.
And then
in 4 years.
So my condition on the flip was, okay, and I thought, this 4 years she'll be there, she'll get, and she's an engineer, she had a job, and so I thought she'll just get trudging along and we'll never have to come back, right? But she held on to her side of the bargain. And then when the day came for us to move back, I actually made her promise me something, which is, I'll take you to India, but I'll never force me to do something that I don't want to do. And that time I was thinking chores like, go clean the bathroom kind of
or
thing.
attend PTMs.
So which, every day you have to do in the US. But it all worked out well. So in a way, it was an accident that I landed in India. I was actually supposed to go work for IBM, the Delhi Research Lab. And that got seriously delayed. I had a verbal offer from the guy who was the first director. So that got seriously delayed. So at some point I said, no point waiting for it. So let's just trigger my own startup. So I think there were so many of these little things which sort of aligned for me to get here. So I don't think I could have designed it any better.
How about founders, if you were to go back for all the learnings, whether it is down but not out, or even the ones that, went from strength to strength?
Yeah, I haven't seen one company that has gone, straight
up.
Yeah, up and to the right, not one. If somebody is telling you that, most likely lying. Okay. So given that is the case, right, and especially in India, I would say, all of these characteristics that we are talking about in the book, try to inculcate that earlier on. Right? I mean, I think that will help because you have to go through this journey, which will probably be 10 to 15 years. You will probably see some corrosion of your team. You'll probably see a lot of pivots in your ideas. And at the end of it, you have to remain sane and be able to orchestrate that symphony well enough. So learn how to, sort of, celebrate the success, learn how to get your heart rate low when it should have otherwise gone high. So work on yourself as to how do you get better every day, as opposed to think of what you can change in the world. So I don't think I've said that often enough. So in the end, if we work on ourselves very well, no, I think we can inflect a lot outside. So if I were to tell a founder who's young, I would say, just see how you can improve yourself every day. And these are some of the parameters that you can think of.
Fantastic place to end. Reminds me of Mahatma Gandhi's quote: "Be the change you wish to see in the world." So thank you so much,
Thank
Subrata,
you.
for coming on the Prime Venture Partners podcast. And this book, Down but Not Out, strongly recommend it. I've been through it a couple of times already, and probably there's a few more interesting lessons here. So thanks, Subrata.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks for having me.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app for free, and you'll be the first one to know when new episodes are available. Just search for Prime Venture Partners podcast in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, or however you get your podcasts. Then hit subscribe. And if you have enjoyed the show, we would be really grateful if you leave us a review on Apple Podcast. To read the full transcript, find the link in the show notes.